Good evening, everyone, and welcome to round 9 of the PSGL F3 Championship. With 4 races just to go this season, the tension is reaching to its boiling point, and tonight the drivers will face the challenge of one of the greatest circuits in motorsport. It is Suzuka, the land of the rising sun here at the Japanese Grand Prix. This track is a true classic, a figure-8 layout, fast-flowing and unforgiving. The S's in the first sector demands rhythm and precision. One mistake and your entire lap could be unravelled. The deadness pushes aggression, Spoon requires braving the throttle as well, and the legendary 130R circuit, one of the fastest corners on the calendar, and with only a handful of overtaking zones, notably the Casio Triangle chicane or in towards turn 1, Suzuka rewards consistency and racecraft as much as raw speed as well. Last time out, we were at Texas, we witnessed a fierce territory. Polimachi, a driver who was in 21st place in the driver's standings, finally saw his fortunes turn. From pole position, he controlled the race from start to finish, delivering his first PSGL victory and doing it in style. Behind him, Alb in the Mercedes and Thiago in the Alpine joined him on the podium despite their first race of the season last week. The Alpine joined him on the podium, and also further down, Mercedes continued to struggle in the order. The results are shaken with the title fight. Luke still leads the way with 61 points thanks to his relentless podium consistency and streak. Though crucially, he's still yet to take a win this season, and he's not here tonight. That's the second time in a row. And behind him, Moore sits on 48 points after a costly DNF, while Autumn is on 45 and Stefano's on 40. And right behind us, with no strong, decent form. Bonpier and Lars van der Linden in the mix too, although Lars isn't here tonight, but I think his teammate is. And we've got a newcomer, which is Leon. There's 2 new Williams drivers here, so it's Alas and Leon then taking over for Keke and Lars van der Linden. The constructors' battle is just as fierce. McLaren momentum has slowed down a bit. Haas have revived by Polimachi's win, and Mercedes entered the fray with Alb's podium. With 4 rounds remaining, every point matters more than ever. So here's Suzuka. The stage is set, a legendary circuit, a title fight on a knife's edge, and a grid more competitive than ever. Who will master the high-speed sweeps of Japan and take momentum in towards the final 4 rounds of the PSGL F9 Championship, or F3 Round 9 Championship? My name is Jamie Morris. Hope you enjoy the intro. And alongside me tonight is my co-commentator. His name is Milan Langer.
Thank you very much, and great to be back, of course, for round 9 of the season. This is a real driver's track, so I'm looking forward to seeing the race around there. Overtaking will be difficult with only 1 DRS zone, and it's a pretty short one as well. So this qualifying session is going to be extra important for these drivers, because you want to have that track position going into the race. And with Luke's absence once again, it is giving some more opportunities to Ward, who of course lost out last week in an accident in turn 1, and he's now retired from the session actually. So, well, Ward is starting from the back of the field, it seems, so not really an opportunity for the Gig Sauber driver, who was 3rd in the championship. But also someone who returned is Artem in the McLaren, who has shown some incredible pace so far this season and will be a contender for potentially the race win. And if he wins this race, he is fully back in the championship fight with Luke, who is not racing once again. So Polimachi has left the own Haas driver tonight here at Suzuka, but it's going to be an interesting race, that's for sure. But we start off with this qualifying session, but surprised to see Wards already out there at the beginning of this session.
Yeah, must have had a qualifying ban or something, unfortunately. Remember that contact in towards turn 1 at the beginning of the race last week as well, up towards turn 1, and it was the first lap contact, but luckily both drivers escaped as they were able to continue. It was between the Haas and Polimachi and Wards too, but Wards is suffering with bad luck. He's been plagued with bad luck ever since like DNF back at the Hungarian Grand Prix, but you think things will turn around, especially with the absence of Luke not being here tonight. On board with the first driver is the Aston Martin of Tigers, who heads down towards the Casio Triangle chicane. He goes in towards third gear, nicely ran the curves too, back on the pattern, back on the throttle, very smooth as he makes his way towards the line. He goes, it's a 26.2. I'm expecting higher 25s this session as well, so let's see if anybody can break that margin, as we see behind the Mercedes cross the line to start his first flying lap, and we'll see plenty of drivers as well pushing the absolute limits of this racetrack. It is so difficult, especially in the first sector. Momentum and rhythm is absolutely essential here tonight, as we see more drivers cross the line. Leon, who's up into P3, representing ILT with a 26.753, and Thiago, who picked up a podium in his first race at PSGL F3 this season, up into second place, and once again doing a great job for Alpine as well. We've got more guys across the line. Vessel goes up into P4. He scored a podium as well. I think it was at the Imola Grand Prix, if I'm not mistaken. It was somewhere, but he's had a topsy-turvy situation too. He has struggled this season, but on the odd race, he can be quite quick. And last week's race winner is Polimachi, goes up into P2 in the Haas. Now, with his teammate not being here tonight, I wonder if Haas can try and close down McLaren in the championship, because Artem's here. Artem is here tonight, and he's going to be a key player and a factor in the championship too. He's currently sat in the pit lane, and this could be big points, especially for McLaren as well, and Diogo Silva, if he puts in a good result and a good stint here too. Lucas goes up into P3 in the Alpine as well, so it's Alpine 3 and 4, so it's a good job for them so far. But Taiko, on his first time here in Japan, doing a really good job so far, and occupying first place in the Aston Martin, and just under a tenth quicker than Polymachi, as we see yellow flags fluctuate everywhere around the circuit too. So they're covering the circuit. That's what you expect to see as well. The yellow flags around here. And who else is a contender and a driver to watch? I think every single driver has their own strengths and weaknesses. Like some on certain tracks do really well, and some on different tracks just fall down the order a bit as well. So it really is track dependent and confidence too. As we've got Napoli negotiates his way towards the chicane. He goes where we saw 80 Senna and Alain Prost crash there back in 1989. Correct me if I'm wrong, it was definitely one of those years, because they crashed 1 year later in 1990 down in towards turn 1. We saw that crash between the two at the start of the Grand Prix. Napoli goes up into P9 in the Kickstarter, just behind Bompia.
Indeed, and Bompje in the Red Bull, he's in P8. His teammate had invalidated his flying lap in the other Red Bull. The Red Bulls have been quite quick this season, but in the races they always seem to manage to lose one of their end plates. It's happened so many times this season, so I really hope that tonight they can keep it clean at the start, because they are yet to get a great result for the team so far. But Bompje at the moment in P8 with a high 26, so definitely want to be a little bit quicker than that. But at the moment it is Aston Martin in a great position right now. Mattia Mango, who could have got his first podium last week at Kota, but he made a mistake, or he collided at the very end of the race, which saw him drop all the way down to P5, and that is where he settled his position with 2 P5s, 2 P6s, 2 P7s, and 2 P11s so far this season. The Aston Martin driver is yet to still get his first podium of the season, but every single week he's shown that he's got the pace to do that. His teammate, a reserve driver, Tigo, has put in an impressive lap time in 26.2, which sees him currently on provisional pole position. But there are still drivers out there like Artem, who hasn't set a lap time yet. He's still in the pit lane. So is Nick, and so is Alp, who was second place last week in the Mercedes, and he was on the front row, I think, as well in qualifying. So he will be a contender as well for pole position. He's just gone out there just like his teammate Dome in the other Mercedes, both Mercedes going out differently to what everyone else does. So it's going to be interesting to see what these drivers will be able to do. This track can really be quite tricky in qualifying, because just one mistake and you're off right into the grass or the gravel on the outside, and that is your lap time completely ruined. So you have to be very perfect around this track to get a good lap time in. But the two Mercedes drivers, Dome is at the end of the second sector. We'll keep an eye out. So Nick is going back out as well in the other Red Bull. He invalidated his first run, currently down in P14, still over 10 minutes to go, so enough time to get a lap time in. But it's nice to have a lap time in at the beginning, so you don't have to worry about that, don't have the pressure at the end of the session that you only have one lap. But it is Dome heading towards 130R flat out in the last, a lot of years ago, and now into the chicane, where you mentioned Senna and Prost having their moment back in 89. It's an iconic moment around such an iconic track as well. But Dome is about to start his flying lap in the Mercedes down the start-finish straight, the only DRS zone on this track. And now we're gonna have to go towards the braking zone of turn 1. Aston Martin on the right hand side, flat out on the braking, then braking whilst turning. Can be quite tricky on the exit, keep it between the white lines, and now going into the S's, where you have to be really mindful of the curbs on the inside and the outside. But it's such a fast flowing bit of this track, and if you get it right, it just feels incredible around here. But a bit of the apex there, but on the exit keeps it within track limits. So that is the most important thing right now. 31.4 at the end of the first sector. Now through the two Degner corners and under the bridge, and now towards the hairpin, where you can really take quite a few different lines, as he takes a fast approach, which is slightly compromised the exit, but doesn't look too bad. Behind his teammate is following closely as well. But Dome now flat out towards Spoon Curve, yet another tricky corner where you have a double apex. The first one there on the exit, have to be mindful of the curb on the inside. If you just hit that curb on the inside a little bit too slightly, then you will just spin around. Now flat out and use the last bit of battery towards 130R and the final chicane. A 109.5 in the middle split. Let's see how that is going to compare to the lap times that have already been set by the top runners down into the final chicane. Doesn't attack the inside curb as much as we've seen so far, but he is going to cross the line for what will be a 126.6, puts him right in P6. But what about his teammate Alp in the other Mercedes? Is he going any quicker than his teammate? Can he match one of the Aston Martins? He is going to cross the line. And a 26.5, just quicker than his teammate. And he's got the Alpine of Thiago in between the two of them. But the two Mercedes boys in P5 and 7 right now, halfway through the session.
Oh, just on board with the Aston Martin exit at turn 2. Unfortunately, he's invalidated, but he's still pushing as well. He's not backing off, so maybe rushing to get the pit lane. I thought he would have slowed down to save the tyres. Maybe he's running only one lap of fuel as well, hence why he's pushing this hard to get back in the pit lane to try and recover some lost time as well. Podium is up in the first sector by 400th of a second as we flick our way now. Ooh, on the absolute limit there in between Spoon Curve as well. Look at the understeer. He's encountered through the exit of the corner. It's just so difficult. And I was in a practice session earlier on with IRT, and I was struggling through Spoon a lot. 4/10 down. Look how much time he's lost as well. So a really scruffy end to that lap for Polimachi. And Mattia Manga as well. So the top three having struggles on their flying laps, and Lucas is in P4 in the Alpine. So let's go on board with him to see what he could do as he makes his way now towards the end of the middle sector. Is this up or down? Down by 5/10. So majority of these drivers really struggling to find a grip around here, as some drivers have been complaining in the practice lobbies about the grip around the circuit. It's just not there for them at all, as Thiago goes up into P2 in the Alpine by 1,000ths away. That is super close between first and a second.
Wow.
Can you get any closer than that? Look at that, guys, at the top left of your screen. Well, it says exactly, but it's 1,000ths away according to me. As you can see there, 285, 286, as Autumn goes up to P4 in the McLaren, as Bompier heads back in the pit lane. So qualifying hasn't really been on Bompier's side, hasn't been his norm this season. Look at that, Vettel being super aggressive going in towards Spoon Curb, where Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen made contact back in 2018, and yes, it did hurt a lot being a Sebastian Vettel fan back in 2018, seeing that contact. He's 2/10 up in the middle sector, but it doesn't count anyway because he has invalidated IRT Leon, the reserve driver, headed towards the line. Let's see what the young Brit could do in the Williams as he makes his way towards the line. He goes up into P4, and that is a strong lap time there for a reserve driver who's making his mark here today at PSGL F3. And I think he's the leader of IRT so far. I think there's 3 boys in IRT. It is Bompier, Nick, and Leon. So currently Leon holds the way and has the bragging rights over his teammates or team members. And of course, these guys split into different teams, with Nick and Bompier being teammates and Leon in the Williams as well. His Williams teammate is Alas in P9, and he's currently down in P9 as well. Well, I said that already, but he's in P9, just inside the top 10 there. As we see Nick in P11 just to bring 26.584, and he's only a few hundreds away as well, a few thousands away from the top 10. Let's see if anybody else is on their flying lap. Napoli isn't. He's currently lingering in P10. Autumn is headed back in the pit lanes. That's the second round done so far, and there's not been many changes in the order due to validations as well. A lot of people on their second lap have been invalidating, and that's how easy it is to get caught out around here too. Anywhere around this figure of 8 circuit, in the first sector, maybe the first and second Degner, Spoon Corner, or the Castro Track chicane. This track, well, it absolutely punishes you as well by the slightest mistake. You can find yourself invalidating or off the track or in the wall, so you can be very careful around here too. Majority of drivers are in the pit lane. There is 4 minutes and 50 seconds left to go on the clock so far, as every single driver will make their way back in the pit lane and waiting for their final laps to go. So Tycho's on pole, and this is his first race as well here in PSGL F3. So what a statement to make as well, especially with the guys fighting for the championship as well. Autumn is well trying to get as many points as he can. Boyo Lulu in P15 for the Racing Bull. He has raced a few times here in PSGL F3 this season. But in the Drivers' Championship, unfortunately, some of the big players aren't here, including the likes of Luke, Stefano, and Jeroen Visser has been promoted. He won 3 races in a row, just like Autumn. Autumn won 3 races in a row for McLaren in F5, got promoted. Jeroen Visser won 3 races in a row in F3, got promoted up to F1. And Autumn won as well in Imola, so that's 4 wins in a row for McLaren. But yes, Autumn's done a mega job so far. His pace has been absolutely relentless so far this season. He did pick up a DNS back at the USA Grand Prix after not racing, and a 10th place at the British GP, because he did generally struggle there on pace. But ever since then, he has been on form so far. Got a podium in the last 3 other 5 races he's raced in so far, has Autumn, so he's definitely a contender. With the likes of Wards, though, opportunities have been there, but unfortunately mistakes have been made, and that's the tale of the season so far. And he starts down in P17, so it's going to be quite difficult to overtake around here too, as there is going to be a DRS train on this circuit. So overtaking will be mighty difficult, and I wonder what could he do, what could he recover from so far down in P17 when the race starts in a few minutes' time. But it's quiet so far, not usually the norm around here in Japan. It's always busy, but it's the calm before the storm, Milan.
Indeed it is, but just look how close it is between the entire field. It's almost a second separating the entire top 16 and 0.3 of a second separating the top 12. 110 between the top 4. But yeah, like you said, this track really punishes you if you just make the slightest of mistakes. And one example of that was Napple. I was riding on board on his lap, and he was going through the S's, and on the exit of turn 6, he just hit the inside curve ever so slightly. And that just sent him spinning around and almost into the wall. So that is why he was unable to improve, and is currently still down in P10. But he's under 0.3 off pole position. It's actually incredible how close all these drivers is. We see some unsafe releases here in the pit lane, while the Alpines going side by side with one of the V-Carbs through the pit lane. But it is getting very busy out on track right now. It was the calm before the storm 10 seconds ago, and now almost every single car is out on track with 2.5 minutes to go in this session. Tigo and Thiago separated by 1,000th of a second. Well, it says here the exact same time, but I think there's just 1,000 in between. But it's absolutely nothing between the Aston Martin and the Alpine, and still Polimachi and Leon both very much in contention as well. Artem as well, he's over 0.2 of a second behind, but we know he's got the pace. He surely can find those 0.2 of a second, but it's just a matter of getting your lines right as he overtakes his teammate there on their outlaps. But under 2 minutes to go, everyone except for Alès, who is going out quite late compared to everyone else, is now out on track preparing for their final runs. So I reckon it's going to be very busy in the final sector at the end of this lap. So let's hope nobody's going to get a grid penalty for blocking. And the first one to start their final flying laps will be Mattia Manga, and his teammate Tigo in the other Aston Martin is following. So the two Aston Martins going out earliest. And let's see what Mattia Manga is going to be able to do as he starts his final flying lap. He's going to have to find 1/4 of a second as he tackles his way in towards turn 1 once again. It doesn't hit the apex there on the exit, but still looking quite good now, going through the S's. His teammate following closely behind, but look at the commitment he's got through these S's. Very nice there from Mattia Manga now, going through turn 6 and turn 7, which is flat out, but you have to take it right. If you run ever so slightly wide on the exit, it will just drag you along into the gravel. But at the exit of the first sector, he's up by 1/10 of a second already. So great improvement so far throughout this lap, but there's still more time to find for the remainder of this lap. Now into the braking zone there, off the hairpin, off turn 11, very tight to the inside, and now on the exit flat out. Doesn't waste a single second, now flat out towards Spoon Curve. Very tight to the inside of the track as well, minimizing track distance. And now we turn in towards turn 13 and 14. Bit slidey on the way in, but looking good on the way out, and deploying that battery all the way down this straight towards 130R in the braking zone of the final chicane. Mattia Manga currently in P6, but he's up by 1.5 tenths now. He's going to have to hope for a miracle of this final chicane to get anywhere near the times of his teammate, but he could potentially get himself inside the top 4 as he crosses the goes out of the final corner on throttle. Very bit of a moment there as he almost spun around, and Mattia Manga is going to cross the line for P3. 18,000 is what he's misses out to his teammate, who is going to improve with 26.000.
Exactly the time. That is incredible. Thiago unfortunately has invalidated. It was a 26.1, but that wasn't enough to cement Paul, unfortunately. Polimachi is up in the middle sector by 1/10 of a second there as well, but that could be good enough for P2. Only depends if he can find more time in this last sector. We go into the final 2 corners. We go now. Alb's up into P5 in the Mercedes, but Polimachi out of the final corner towards the line. He goes. It's P3 for the Haas driver. Behind us is Artem, stays in P7, and Lucas in the RP goes up into P2 for his best qualifying of the season. Congratulations towards the Alpine there. Alpine 2 and 3 looking very strong now in the last couple of races, and that is a mighty improvement there. But elsewhere on their laps, who else is improving? Alas in the Williams is up, and Leon goes up into P2 in the Williams on his debut here for F3. Fantastic job there from the young Brit for IRT in the Williams. But his teammates towards the line now. He goes up into P8 and inside the top 10 there. Artem is P9 with the championship contenders. Unusual place for him. And that's qualifying concluded. And I dare say as well, not on my bingo card tonight to see who take pole, but that is a mega lap time there from Tycho as well to take pole position away. And 26 dead as well from the Dutchman. 26.000 as well. That's fantastic there from Tycho. And Leon behind as well. So the two newcomers occupying the first row of the grid. Lucas and Peter ahead of Thiago, Polimachi, Mattia Manga, Alb, Alas, Artem Napol, Nick, Dome, Bob Pierre, Diogo Silva, Vessel, Boyolulu, Wards. The reason why I said that quickly is because I'm going to run to the toilet, so be right back.
Good luck. So that's the end then of this qualifying session. Brilliant lap from Tycho, taking his maiden pole position. I think it's his first race here in Tier 3, yes it is. So great lap time from him, and Leon alongside him. So two Rickies occupying the front row. Incredible scenes here, and they're both separated by under a tenth of a second, and they got about a tenth to the car behind. So great lap from the Aston Martin, but now we get to prepare ourselves for the race. And what are our championship contenders going to do? Luke, of course, he's not there. Wards starts down in P17. Artem starts down only down in P9. I was running on board with him throughout his lap, and then he was up by almost 1.5 tenths through the middle sector. But then he went into the final chicane, and he had a really messy time there through those two corners on the exit as well. Lost a lot of time, and he eventually only improved by a few hundredths of a second. That just means that's why he's all the way down in P9. So it's going to be difficult for him to come back from that as well and get a good result, because he absolutely needs that in the championship fight. He needs to close as many points to Luke as possible. He's currently 16 points behind in the championship. So if he wins this race, he will be tied with the Haas driver. And what can Ward do, of course, from the back of the grid around the track that is very difficult to overtake around. He's going to have to do something strategically, going for the undercut, going for a different strategy to everyone else, and make his way up the field that way. But either way, it's going to be a great entertainment race once again. But are we going to see a rookie win tonight here in PSGL PSF3? What is Tycho going to be able to do with Leon alongside him? That run towards turn 1 is going to be crucial as well. As you can go side by side through there, but you have to give each other space, because after that one, you were going to go in towards those S's, and that gets really tricky going wheel to wheel through that. But strategy-wise, looks like the majority of these drivers are going to start on the mediums, with a few exceptions. Looks like Mattia Manga is opting for the hard compound tires, so he's going for the hard medium strategy. And Nick at the moment is selected the soft compound, so he's going very optimistic at the start. But all he needs to focus on, just like his teammate, is not getting front wing damage, because that's what happened over the past few races. And that is what lost both Red Bulls so much time and so many positions, which sees them down in Boompje P6 in the championship, with especially being in second place at the Belgian Grand Prix. And Nick is all the way down in 22nd in the championship, only has got 1 points finish, which was at the season opener at the Austrian Grand Prix. He will start this race in P11, his teammate in P13, but it's time to get ready and get this race going soon.
It's going to start very soon in the Grand Prix, and I can't wait to see what happens as well, headed down in towards turn 1. He can be contact prone going down in towards turn 1, as we see the line tightened up ever so close as well. We saw Roman Grosjean hit, I think it was Mark Webber back in 2012 when he made contact with the Red Bull driver Nico Rosberg. Unfortunately got involved as well. But as we enter now the race, we'll see what happens. It's all to play for in this Grand Prix, and I wonder what Wards could do for the back as well. What can Artem do? Because they're trying to close down Luke in the championship for first place, but Luke has missed 2 races in a row, and that's going to really hurt him too. Funnily enough, the man in the first place of the championship hasn't got any wins this season, so he still can't win here in Japan because he's not here. But I wonder when he does return, when will he return? Would it be USA or Brazil? I'm not quite sure, but hopefully it does, because he's got a championship on the line here, and I hate to say the obvious, but obviously the more races he misses, the less chance he'll get it. And I really hope as well that he does turn back, because he needs these points as well. He needs these races. And he still needs his first win of the season, does Luke, because his teammates got it. After the bad luck he's been plagued by this season, Polimachi, he finally gets his first win, and in style. So he dominated the US Grand Prix. He broke away from the DRS train from the early stages of the Grand Prix, despite making contact with Wards going down towards turn 1. But it was, I don't know what the outcome of that was. Probably should check the I think the stewards, but it's a bit too late that for now. and we'll have to focus on this race. But the drivers should ready up soon for this exhilarated Japanese Grand Prix. Of course, first introduced back in in fact, I did my research. I should know this because I've commentated around Japan quite a lot of times, but I don't want to get the years mixed up. Forget about that because the light's about to go away on the panels there. And we're underway for the Japanese Grand Prix. The top two getting even start there as we see now the Aston Martin side by side with the Williams as we head down. It's towards turn one. There's contact already between the top two, but mid-outscape off in the background goes he goes off the track fully. He rejoins all the way down in P14 at the back of the field, unfortunately, but not much going on. We've got a few drivers in the midfield there. Swapping position. Bompia is up into P10 ahead of Napol as he got pushed backwards into P11 behind the Red Bull driver. But Taiko and Leon went side by side in towards turn one and turn two. There was a bit of contact involved, but luckily both drivers made out game. Nobody spun, unlike the first lap of the 1990 Grand Prix. As we see, Artem and Nick, who's that? Somebody might have lost their plate there. There's no way. That can't be a Red Bull, surely, who lost their plate. Is it? Yes, it is. Oh my goodness me. How many races have the Red Bull drivers lost their red plates? We keep saying it every single time in the race. They're just prone to it. They're just not immune to it, unfortunately. They just seem to get themselves in early contact towards the Grand Prix. I just can't believe it. They've got such good pace and potential. And down the inside goes the Red Bull of Nick. And here comes Bompy, his teammate too, trying to take advantage of the McLaren. There's contact between the two. And Autumn there, unfortunately, out of shape. And now Bompia. Do you know what? Both Red Bull drivers have lost the red plates again for the second race in a row. How is this possible? But look at Leon right behind Taiko. But obviously, he's going to wait for it as we head down in towards the Castro Drago chicane. At least one IRT driver is having a good race. Well, it is the first lap of the Grand Prix. But at least one of them's got their front wing. But the other two, unfortunately, lacking a red plate as we see those two there. And has somebody made contact in the background? I'm not quite sure. But anyways, lap 2 out of 26 as we see down the inside goes Lucas, but backside for the time being as Napol and also scrapping away Bompia. Look at this, 3 abreast towards turn 1 as the side by side through 2. Bompia defending for dear life. He's got no end plate. He's slow in the first sector as we see more people there involved in this melee as we see Alb trying to make up some ground after he lost it in the first lap by going off the track in towards 1 and 2. But look at that. 9th place downwards, lost the DRS already. That's the second half of the group in this Grand Prix. That's the consequences you pay by fighting too hard and breaking your wings as well.
Indeed, so quite a messy start there, and especially for 2 Red Bulls, both of them having front wing damage. You cannot ride it as every single time, but it was Boompje going wheel to wheel with Artem into the finals again. Yellow flags are out. It is Vessel who has spun out the second decker. He's rejoining. He doesn't have front wing damage, but Boompje and Artem went wheel to wheel into the final chicane, and they both went off track, got across, and I think Boompje got a legal overtake. That is why he was going side by side with the McLaren and the Sauber through in towards turn 1. But he gave the position back and then took it back immediately, and that is why Artem is down in P11 from 9th on the grid. So not a great start for the McLaren driver, but he is on the hard compound tire, and so is Napol and Mattia Manga in P5, while his teammate Tigo, he's got a 1 second lead already over Leon, and he is starting to extend it. So great start, perfect start for the Aston Martin reserve drivers. That's the fastest lap of the race as well, as we go into lap 3, 29.4. Then Leon in second place, and the 2 Alpines of Lucas and Thiago in 3 and 4. Mattia Manga holds on to P5. He's already dropped behind due to being on the harder compound tires. Boompje gets past Napol. He's up at the P9 despite his wing damage, but now Kicksauer will find out how much slower the RT driver will be through this. In fact, Napol is quite slow in the background as well, and it's Alp trying to find a way past Artem, going onto the grass, trying to do that, but the McLaren driver stays in P11 for now. But he seems to be struggling right now. He's behind another hard runner. He wants to get past as soon as possible, because the top 10 is already starting to drive away from the McLaren driver, who needs to get a good result tonight. As Polimachi has made a mistake out of the Technical, and he's got grass on his tires. Alice goes through, and so does Nick, way too late on the brakes. And Polimachi, with his switchback, is able to get back in front of the Red Bull driver, but I think he just ran out wide on the second deck there, and that allowed the Williams driver to go through. So the man who won the United States Grand Prix last week, making a mistake early on in this race. He's dropped the position and down to P7. And almost got overtaken by Nick, but he just broke way too late going into the hairpin. But we go on to lap 4 in a moment time, and Tigo is still extending 1.2 seconds the gap now towards Leon, and now he's going to try and manage this race and build a gap to cover off a potential undercut as Alp and Artem go Alp into the wall, and out of the race goes the Mercedes. Wheel has been taken off, virtual safety car has been deployed. Not sure what happened there, but the Mercedes and the McLaren come together on the third lap, and the race has been neutralized.
Yeah, not quite sure what happened there either, but you were correct about Poliamachi because I caught it. He just made a mistake at Degner 2, as unfortunately just off the track, and therefore LSF1 took advantage. LSF1's best result of the season so far, I think, is in P9, so currently in P6. And Alb, last week's podium sitter in USA, unfortunately in the wall and out of this Grand Prix. A VSC, I think, has been deployed, so no full-blown safety car either in the Grand Prix, which means race distance is increased by 40%. And look at this, despite breaking away from the DRS range, people can manipulate and take advantage of the VSC because they try and go to the absolute limit of their delta. Before the red zone, in the background goes Poliamachi off the track, and Bompia takes advantage. Poor Poliamachi from the highs back. The sun at the Japanese Grand Prix goes from bad to worse for Poliamachi, down in towards P9. He has no sort of rhythm or momentum, and unfortunately keeps getting pushed backwards in the Grand Prix. Bob has been released up into P7. Nick has pitted for a new wing, and that has benefited him as well to try and replace his broken wing and therefore lose lost time. Artem's up into P9 ahead of the Haasman now, who continues to fall down the yard. He's on the hard compound tyre. No, he's on the medium side. I read that wrong. He's on the medium compound tyre. No broken wing as Leon is right behind Tico. There he is going down towards the Castro Triangle chicane. I know I'm not pronouncing the name right, but of course I've got a Dutchman right next to me, and Tico is Dutchman. So it is a Dutchman, and therefore the name will be pronounced right by Milan Langer. But here we go with the DRS wide open. This is Leon's big chance to take away the lead of the Grand Prix. He goes left, he goes right, he goes down the inside, in towards turn one. Oh, contact! Big contact! And Tico's off the track there. Unfortunately, he's broke his way too. What on earth happened there between those guys? But what a massive shame. He rejoins in P4. And he has a broken wing. What a shame there. How do you view it? Because it happened so quick. I'm not quite sure what happened.
They went wheel to wheel in turn one. Maybe Tico just turned in a little bit too early to hit the side of the Williams, which spun him around and got him front wing damage. I'm not quite too sure. I was riding on board with the Williams as well, so I didn't quite see if the Aston Martin turned in too early. But it's a real shame towards Tico, was dominating this race before, as Vessel goes off again in this race. But wow, down to P4 he goes, front wing damage, and now under pressure from his own teammate. But he could have, maybe could have prevented that, but he was desperate to keep that lead after losing out 1 second at the VSC restart. So maybe that got to him, and that unfortunately has dropped him down to P4. So really unfortunate for the Aston Martin. And now Leon is in the lead of this race. He already made contact with the Aston Martin in turn 1 on lap 1. And now 4 laps later they collide once again. And this time it ends in tears for the Aston Martin driver, unfortunately, as Lucas is now closest to the back of the Williams driver. And Alpine, actually, they might be on for a great result tonight, because Lucas is going to have the DRS as we go on to the start-finish straight, although Leon is going to deploy everything off his battery to defend against the Alpine, who is closing the gap, but not quite close enough as we go towards turn 1. Has half a look up the inside, but he knows if he puts his Alpine in between there, he will be in the gravel trap on the exit as well. Thiago following closely behind, and Tico is starting to lose time, especially through this sector is where he will lose the most, through these medium speed corners where you need the front wing. And Mattia Manga is close behind on the hards and looking to potentially find a way past his teammate LS, and the other Williams is there as well in P6, already a 3-second gap towards Boomtje with that front wing damage. And Napel, he's got that train behind him still of Artem, Podemachi, Diogo Silva and Dome, who are following the Kick Sauber, who is on the hard. So is Artem, who is back in P9 after it was Nick who made his pit stop under VSC conditions, and so did Wars trying to go for a different strategy, but he's still down in P15. He's going to have to go for maybe a safety car.
They go side by side. In towards Spoon, sorry to interrupt, but Lucas has taken the lead in towards Spoon, and Leo goes off the track, and through goes Thiago. RP 1-2, but here comes Leo with a splish back and a better exit now the wheel to wheel as we head down towards this back straight in towards 130R. Looks like Leo's got a bit more straight line speed. Use the batteries to get ahead at least one RP driver, but no, the RP is going to go. Oh, contact! He spins! No! He does a Kamui Kobayashi in 2011 and he saves the car. Does Leon as well, but he's side by side with his teammate. Oh my goodness me, more contact. Not a good statement to make at your first race here. PSGL F3 is bumping and barging and contact, and Leon is absolutely desperate here to show we could do it here tonight. And unfortunately, he's fallen down towards P6. I'm so sorry, Milan, but I think you missed the battle going down towards Spoon.
No problem there as Artem gets past Nappo, but what a fight that was between those two. And once again, a race leader losing out, almost spinning out. And he's down to P6 for the leader race. And now we've got an Alpine 1-2 with Lucas leading away ahead of Thiago. And then the two Aston Martins. Vessel, he's retired from the session in pit lane, not his race. Unfortunately tonight, he becomes our second retirement. And he's just 15 runners in this race, but Alpine lead the way. Tycho in P3, he's gonna have to train behind him because he's got that front wing damage. Mattia Munger now up at the P4 position, once again finds himself in an opportunity to get his first podium of the season, but of course the race is still long, still 20 laps remaining after this one, and he's got the two Williams close behind as well. I don't think Leon picked up front wing damage with that moment, no he hasn't, so that's at least one good thing for him. And Boomsje, because of all of that, he's closed the gap to under a second almost, despite having front wing damage. That is just how much time they're losing by fighting it out so hard for the lead of this race. But Lucas and Thiago starting to break away from Tycho. The gap is 9/10 of a second and close to being 1 second. And if Tycho drops out of the DRS range, then the two Alpines will be gone, as they can start to work together to potentially bring home a 1-2 finish. But we go on to lap 8 with Lucas leading the way ahead of his own teammate. Tycho and Mattia Munger still in P3 and P4, the two Aston Martins. Looks like Tycho is going to stay ahead of his teammate for now, as the gap grows to over a second towards the Alpines, as Tycho goes slightly wide as well on the entry of turns 1 and 2, which gives him even more time. Polimachi is able to get past Napple in towards turn 1, and the Haas driver is back up into P9, as Napple has been really struggling in this race. He's down to P10 again on the hards, and he's going to be under pressure from Diogo Silva in the McLaren. Artem, he's got free air about now and is closing the gap towards Boompje. Here the gap is around 2 seconds right now, and if he gets the back and gets past Ripple, he could potentially close the gap towards the leading train, which would bring Artem back in contention for a potential podium. But he's still got a lot of work to do to close that gap, because even Boompje, he's closing the gap to 7/10 of a second with that front wing damage, as Napple drops one more position to Diogo Silva, who now finds himself inside the top 10. But Tycho, he has completely lost the connection towards the Alpine. It's 1.7 seconds, and Alpine leads the way very comfortably right now on lap 8.
Yeah, I think Tycho should have let his teammate go a lap ago, or lap 2 before, because he's clearly losing a lot of time towards Thiago and Lucas there, the Alpine 1-2. Lucas, however, this season hasn't finished the podium at all. Not once this season, and they're currently 1-2 so far, so what a change of fortune there for Lucas. And Thiago, his first race of the season was back at the US Grand Prix. Oh, massive mistake there. He made a massive mistake as the back of the car went away from him, and he lost a bit of time too for good measure, so maybe Tycho could get back in DRS range. But here comes Mattia Munger. He goes up into P3 and finally release, and now could set about his sides, catching towards Thiago and Lucas as well. So that should have happened a long time ago. And LSF1 is right behind too as well in the Williams, trying to make an impression as well. Currently running a good race side P5. His best result I think was P9 a couple of races ago. Yeah, he's barely scored any points this season, but currently running a solid P5 is LSF1 there in the Williams, ahead of his teammate too of Leon the newcomer in P6. And Bob is still in DRS range, like you said, despite having a broken wing. As we know, Nick pitted under the VSC. He's down in P13, 9.2 seconds away from Dome in P12. He hasn't really made any pressure so far in this race as Dome starts at the back of the field. And where's Ward? Still P14 as well for the Kickstarter drive. I think he pitted under the VSC like Nick as well. He's rejoined all the way towards the back of the field. So the championship contender of Wards in P14, not having a good race so far. He needs these points. Luke hasn't turned up in the last 2 races, and in these 2 races gone by, Wards retired back in USA, and he's running down to P14 in Japan, and he DNF back in Hungary too. So missed opportunities here, unfortunately for Wards at the Japanese Grand Prix. As we see Mattia Munger, he's back in DRS range, and not to mention too, he's on the hardcore powered tyres. So this could be very handy later in the Grand Prix too, because at this stage of the Grand Prix, the hardcore powered tyres will be a better compound tyres, and therefore be more comfortable than the RP drivers in front of us. So I think Thiago, as you can clearly see, is struggling, as we've got Tycho in the pit lane to change his front wing, and Leon too. So Leon's pitted and potentially go for the early undercut. As we know, Leon cooked his tyres earlier on by half spinning the car and slamming on the brakes. But nice save there from Leon, just like Kamui Kobayashi did back in 2011 when he spun there too, but saved the car himself. As I think he's still the last F1 Japanese podium sitter is Kamui Kobayashi, because Yuki Tsunoda hasn't scored a podium at all yet in F1 despite being there for 5 seasons now, and the Red Bull. But of course we know the circumstances as well due to that. But yeah, Kamui Kobayashi home favourite driver, finished in P3, defended from Jenson Button in the last couple of laps of the Grand Prix, and Sebastian Vettel won too, and Felipe Massa finished in second place despite a difficult season. But in front of us, Thiago goes very deep in the corner, and he's clearly struggling for grip now as well. Mattia Manga will be all of the back of him too, and I wonder which Alpine will pit first. You think Lucas, because he's got the prerogative in first place, he's got the call, but we'll see what the call is like towards in the Grand Prix. I wonder if these two working together as well, because Thiago's he's a new teammate. He only raced once here at PSGL so far. So I'm not quite sure how good these two are teamwork, but hopefully it's good enough because they're currently sat in first and second place, and this could be their second podium of the season with a double podium for Alpine as well. And they're currently way further down the championship as well. I think they're P6 in the championship, if I'm not mistaken, as we head towards the Castro-Troika chicane. Will the Alpine boys make a move? Yes. Lucas heads towards the pit lane to change off his speedy compound tyres, and this gives Mattia Manga all the encouragement he needs to get past, and he does get past. He puts himself in towards leading the Grand Prix in first place on the hard compound tyres, and let's see how his strategy pays off from there, as he now needs to pull away from Thiago in P2.
Manga still searching for his first win, even still his first podium of the season, and once again finds himself with a great opportunity to do that tonight, because he also has got the advantage of strategy, although he will pit later and he will come out probably in traffic, but he will have the tire advantage at that stage, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be able to do. But Mattia Manga now leads the way ahead of Thiago, and Artem finds himself now in P3, who also started on the hards, so he will be continuing on longer as well, just like Napple in P5. And Dome in P7, who is just going off track through Degner 1 and loses a little bit of time towards Thiago Silva in P7. So Nick now is the lead car of those who have made a pit stop. Interestingly, the man who got by 40 seconds of penalties last week at Kota. And by Lucas, he's 1.2 seconds behind. So if he gets stuck behind the Red Bull, which is not unrealistic to think about, because we know that Nick's got front wing damage and will be much slower through the corners. So this could be judgmental for Lucas's race if he gets held up by the Red Bull. So that could be good news for Mattia Manga later on. Leon in a net P3 position. Then it's Ward in P4. Ward is ahead of Tycho, and that is because Tycho changed his front wing during his pit stop. So he's got a new end plate, but picks up a 3-second time penalty as he goes slightly wide through Spoon Curve as the other Alpine of Thiago pulls into the pit lane at the end of lap 11 onto lap 12, and so does Polimachi behind in the Haas, and Diogo Silva in the McLaren, nearly hitting the board there of the speed limit. But out goes Thiago, and where is he going to come out compared to the likes of Nick, Lucas and Leon? He probably will be behind his teammate, who is trying to get past Nick, and he does, going in towards turn 1, and Lucas is ahead of the Red Bull, and importantly Thiago comes out just ahead there of Leon by a few tenths of a second, and he will be ahead because it is very difficult to overtake through the S's. So great news for Thiago, who now has got clean air and can set his sight on trying to find a way past Nick and chase after his teammate again. The gap between the two Alpines right now is around 2.5 seconds, so that is the undercut for him. And Lucas now, he's got clean air of 8 seconds towards home and can try and start to build the gap for when Mattia Manga pulls into the pit lane.
It's looking very good so far for Lucas in P5 there. He's got a driver in between himself and his teammate too. So Lucas is first win of the season. Bearing in mind though, like you said, he hasn't scored a podium just yet this season as Lucas. And his best result, I think, was P6 a couple of races ago. So it was P6, and that was at the very first start of the race as well. That was at the Austrian Grand Prix, the very first race of the season. So it's going well for him so far. Of course, we know the top 4 have got to pit to go from Haas to medium compound tyres. Watch out for Mattia Manga later on the Grand Prix. Will his medium compound tyres give him the benefit and catch these guys down later on in the Grand Prix too, to the offset strategy, or the alternate strategy, not the offset, but he has a massive offset difference as well when he comes out of the pit lane, as we see the drivers then coming towards Castro-Troika chicane. It's the most calm and relaxed I've seen Lucas so far, as Thiago is right behind Nick as well, so this is very important for him to get past. It's absolutely pivotal for him in this race to get past the Red Bull driver. But of course, the Red Bull driver's got more straight line speed in comparison towards the Alpine because he's broken his wing. And surprisingly as well, despite pitting under the VSC, as Leon gets super close there, as Thiago is currently in an IRT DRS train that tends to eat up their front wings quite a lot, and hopefully he doesn't get involved in that either. But it'll be so painful because he's losing a lot of time in the first sector because Nick's got that damage, therefore can't carry the speed in the first sector, and therefore lose a lot more time. And on the straights, he's super quick. So where can Thiago do it? Can he get a good launch out of Degner 2 to get him out in the hairpin? Let's have a look right now, because this is very important for him. He's got a better tyres comparison towards Nick, but can't get the launch he needs. I can't sell up the inside in towards the hairpin. The Kamuru Kobayashi style type corner this one is. I think it's Sergio Perez as well. I think he's spun into that corner, trying to do a move on the inside. I think back in 2012 or 2011, I'm quite sure when it was. But here we are going down in towards Spoon. You can make moves going towards Spoon, but you need to be fully alongside and ahead going towards this corner. Otherwise, contact can be made as we now exit Spoon Curve and we get the run all the way down towards 130R, where Fernando Alonso overtook Marcus Schumacher around the outside in towards 2005. But this could be down the inside. He's not close enough. He's pushed him through the corners as Nick is harvesting ERS as we head towards the final few corners now. This is very painful. He's losing so much time as he tries to go around the outside, but Leon's right behind too for the taking. So defending and attacking Nick as we go on towards the main straight we go. And let's have a look, see if Thiago can get past. He's going to go all the way around the outside. He does. Is this 2 for 1? Let's see now. Can Leon go around the outside? He can. So Nick has lost 2 places there, unfortunately. He's a good defender, is Nick. We saw that back in USA. He will not give up. He's so tenacious. He will never give up on Nick, despite a broken wing or not. He will always fight. But as you can see, more steering inputs and more understeer to the corner. You can really see him struggling in the first sector there as well. Look how much time he's lost already in the first sector by a few tenths as well as Leon and Thiago pulled away. What's the gap now between his teammates? It is 3.7 seconds. So as you can see there, the gap was like 1.8 at one point. Now it's 3.7. So he's lost a abundance amount of time, has Thiago. And that's going to be so difficult, you know. Try and claw his way back in. You need raw pace to try and catch your teammate, and the tyre difference is only 1 lap, which will not be enough there to try and catch him. So he needs, I don't know what he needs. It's 13 laps left to go in the Grand Prix. It's just so hard to catch up to somebody when you're on the same amount of tyres, really, aren't you?
Indeed, and what doesn't help is that he's got Leon for company behind, who is closing the gap as well, wanting to get by to potentially chase after Lucas himself. The gap is 5 tenths between the two of them, but yeah, almost 4 seconds separating the two Alpines. So Lucas right now in a very comfortable position. He's still got clean air ahead of him. 5 seconds is the gap towards the next closest car. Probably when he will be at the back of the Mercedes, they will be putting into the pit lane, because once the lap 15 of 27, and then the next few laps, they will make their pit stops for the medium compound tire. Leon is closing the gap with the help of the ERS, but not close enough to make any sort of move to try and find a way past Thiago, who goes slightly deep there in towards turn 1. But he's chasing those two Alpines as Warts gets overtaken by Diogo Silva. Warts made his pit stop 11 laps ago under VSC conditions, so he's going to have to make another one during this race, and it's going to be a pretty pointless race. Something has gone on though, as yellow flags are out, and it might have been Artem who have made a mistake coming out of the second deck. He had a gravel on his tires. I think he was a couple of seconds behind Mattia Manga, but now it's 10 seconds separating the two. So that is very bad news for the man who is P4 in the championship, who needed a good result, who was going to get a good result, but now he's got 10 seconds behind Mattia Manga. When he makes his pit stop, he probably will be outside the top 10. So Artem there with a crucial mistake in the championship fight as well. Mattia Manga leads the way now by 10.5 seconds as his teammate is trying to fight it out with Polimachi. Bit of contact, and Polimachi gets spun around half there into the grass. Goes the Haas driver from hero to zero, winning last week at Kota, and multiple mistakes today, multiple unlucky moments, sees him all the way drop down to P12, and he's got a penalty as well, as Artem pulls into the pit lane in the McLaren, and he's the first one to do so from the ones who start on hard, so he's going for some sort of undercut, well, maybe to prevent the undercut from the cars behind, but let's see where he's going to come out. He's put on a brand new set of hards as he's going to do that. Nick pulls into the pit lane as well, who made his pit stop during VSC conditions, but Artem, he is going to drop outside the top 10, or just inside. No, he's going to be behind. Diogo Silva gets past Wadamachi, and Artem is down in P13 behind his closest championship rival Ward. So that is the amount of time that he has lost with that mistake. And Mattia Manga, he will be around 10 seconds up the road from this, so he will be probably in P7 in a nice gap between Leon and Tigo. So that is good news for Mattia Manga, who can probably close that gap once he has that clean air. So he might come out in a very handy gap once the Aston Martin driver pulls into the pit lane. Napol in second place and Dome still both have to make their pit stop, as the gap between Lucas and Thiago hasn't closed down at all. It's still 3.8 seconds. Leon hasn't been able to find a way past the Alpine driver either, as Artem comfortably gets past Bart with the tire advantage. So Bart's now down to P13. It's not looking great for him in terms of points playing positions, but Mattia Manga is going to continue on for another lap as we go on to lap 17. So the Aston Martin driver going longer and then going for the tire advantage at the very end of this race.
Yeah, the gap to leader though between Lucas and Mattia Manga is about 14.2 seconds as Dome has entered the pit lane. So Mattia Manga, there's 10 laps have to go with the Grand Prix, and that's going to be a tall order to bring the gap down like that when he rejoins way behind Lucas as well. So I wonder how long he's going to go on the hardcore power tyres. Looks comfortable so far. It could be goal hanging for a safety car, could Mattia Manga as well. The man that has finished, well, let's have a look at the driver's results as well, whilst some people in the pit lane as Polimachi goes down towards turn 1. Mattia Manga's patterns of race results has been absolutely consistent, literally as well, because the man has finished 7th, 7th, 6th, 6th, 11th, 5th, 11th, 5th. And could it be first or could it be 5th? I don't know in the Grand Prix, but he's running a good pattern so far this season. But yeah, let's see how it does then. He's losing a lot more time as well towards Lucas in P3, because Lucas has taken another second out of Mattia Manga's advantage. Well, it was 14.7, now it's 13.6. So that's a huge gap as well to be trying to close down towards in the Grand Prix for Mattia Manga by a minimal running on the medium power tyres. Of course, towards in the Grand Prix, you want to do less distance on the medium power tyre because that's the tyre that wears out so quickly in the Grand Prix too. But of course, he needs the lap time. He needs the laps to try and hunt down Lucas and Thiago if he wants a chance of a podium. I think he could get Leon and Thiago possibly, but Lucas may be a bit of a stretch. I'm not quite sure. He's pitted right now, so lap 17 out of 27, or 18 going towards 27. He has pitted, and I wonder how much time we'll get in the medium power tyres. I have a massive tyre offset, of course, with the guys behind, but we'll see. Can he make up the deficit towards in the Grand Prix by doing it also strategy? Here we go. Look at these cars going 3 abreast in towards the chicane. Autumn, a double move on the inside, but not done just yet, because Polimachi around the outside, down the inside, takes away P9, but that was almost a double move there from Autumn, but this time it's the DRS. So does Polimachi as well, so we'll be able to get him on the straight line speed as we head down in towards turn 1. Autumn stays behind. I thought for 1 second he tried down the inside, but Polimachi just runs off the road and says, Autumn says, thank you very much, mate. I'm coming through, and taking away P8. That was a very easy move indeed towards the end. And Diogo Silva is up into P9 ahead of Polimachi as well. Where is Mattia Manga? So he's rejoined the P qualifying laps from now towards the end. And Leon and Thiago. Thiago's off the track, and here comes Mattia Manga to go up to the podium in P3. That was very easy, but not yet. He still needs to complete the move, and now he has. He's up into P3, but they're still going side by side out of the corner. And we'll see what happens going down in towards Spoon. You think that Mattia Manga should have a better chance of the medium power tyres with the grip advantage he has, but no, stays behind him for the time being. I thought for 1 second Mattia Manga would have him easily and get up towards Leon. But Thiago's made a mistake. He's made a few mistakes in this Grand Prix so far, has the RP driver. In the first stint, when he went off the track a few times as well, and towards the final corner, we did a massive slide as well. And he's under massive pressure so far from Mattia Manga. And Mattia Manga needs to get past quickly. Maybe Thiago can help his teammate by defending from Mattia Manga. And if he can, that'll be a mighty drive from the Alpine driver to do that. But it could be limited because Mattia Manga has the better medium power tyres and the DRS, of course. And he should be able to go through. He does. He puts himself up into P3. And for the first time this season, has a chance for the podium. Remember back in USA, when he chanced for the podium, but he made contact as his teammate has lost his end plate. Unfortunately, Tico in P6 there. He's got ILT Bompier, his fellow countryman Dutchman, behind him too for good measure. As he's also he's got a front wing now. He's changed the pit lane, so Bompier does have a new wing to his car as his teammate Nick pitted under the VSC. That's why he's down in P13. Look at the gap, 6.7 now to leader from Lucas to Mattia Manga. Mattia Manga's absolutely flying so far. With about 7 laps left to go to the Grand Prix, I think the win is still in the question because his pace advantage so far has been so relentless. He's got some raw pace in the Aston Martin. He's only 1 second behind, or 9/10 behind Leon as well. So when he gets up to the back of Leon, dispatch him as quickly as he can and try and hunt down Lucas for the win. This could be an absolute masterclass strategy there from Mattia Manga in P3 to get his first win of the season. In fact, both the top three go for their first win of the season with Lucas, Leon and Mattia Manga. The top three, the ones that haven't stood at the podium yet just at this season. So they've got a lot to prove. as the top three there. As Mattia Manga's right behind. Let's go on board with him. Hopefully I don't miss the overtake. Here we go then. As we head down towards the chicane we go. It's so tight going towards the breaker zone. Contact is the last thing that he needs. He needs it to be a simple overtake. I don't think there was any point going down the inside there. You just need to be patient. Think methodically and go past on the straight, which he has done. He's up into P2 because if you make contact going down towards that chicane, that's it then. That could have been a podium ruin for him as well, like in USA. But luckily this time, he's got away unscathed. He's up into P2. Can he hunt down Lucas with the gap being 6.6? The top two are searching for the first win and podium of the season. But who is going to win the Japanese Grand Prix? It's going to be Lucas or Mattia Manga.
Another easy overtake sees him up into P2 in the gap. Yeah, indeed. He is 6.5 seconds, but he will be so much quicker. But he shouldn't ask too much of his stars at this stage because he will need them in the final few laps when he's going to try and go for the move. He's already gained half a second through that section. He is closing the gap down rapidly. He's got a 7-lap tire advantage on tire wear wise, and even the mediums as well will be quicker than the hards. So another second gain for Mattia Manga. He is absolutely rapid at this stage of this race, and he is hunting down the Alpine of Lucas, who has been in quite a comfortable position for the majority of this race. Once the incident happened between it was Tycho and Leon earlier on, and then when Leon spun around as well, later on he got released into clean air, and he hasn't looked back since his pits. Was Polimachi picks up another penalty, a 3-second time penalty added to his race. It's been a dreadful race for the Haasman, as Artem is going to get as Boompje up the inside into the chicane, and Artem now into P7 as the other McLaren goes backwards, as Dome finds a way past on his new mediums and finds himself inside the top 10, and with 2 cars ahead of him both having penalties, he could be on for a top 8 result, as Artem is looking to find a way past Tycho as well. He's got that front wing damage, switches to the inside. Oh, very close, a very chaotic entry towards turn 1. Now on the exit, he's going to try and go wheel to wheel into the S. Surely not. Round the outside he goes. He's got the inside line next, as there's contact between the two, but he goes a long way around the outside in the second part of the SS. It's a beautiful move eventually by Artem, who now finds himself inside the top 6 and chasing after Alès, who's got 5-lap older, harder tires. So he should be able to make light work of that overtake and get past the Williams driver as soon as possible. But again, the gap is 5.4 seconds towards Thiago, which might be a little bit of a stretch trying to close that gap, as Mattia Manga, he's gained yet another second. What has happened to Polimachi? Has he gone off again? I think he has, because he's dropped another 3 positions down to P12 as Napple sends one up the inside into the hairpin. It is a terrible race for Polimachi. Won the last race and now he finds himself outside the top 10. It's the last thing he needed in was being on a good form since the last race, but now finds himself in P12. And Nick in P13, he's on new mediums. I think he got a new front wing as well to potentially close the gap, but it's 13 seconds right now. But I think Polimachi's got 6 seconds worth of penalties, so he might drop down even further. But at the front, it is Lucas and Mattia Manga at TF10 1-2, and the gap is 4.4 seconds, so he's gained another second compared to the previous lap. Leon in P3, still got Thiago for company for the final spot on the podium. And Artem is closing the gap towards Alès. It's just under a second now as we're going towards turn 1. Polimachi into the pit lane, and Polimachi is out of the race as Napple finds his way past Diogo Silva. So it really is from hero to zero for the Haas driver, because he won last race. This time he is not going to score, and it will be no points for Haas either in their fight in the Constructors Championship. So it's bad news for the team, and they're going to want to refresh themselves ahead of the next race in Las Vegas. But 3.6, 3.5, another second gained for the Aston Martin, and with 5 laps to go, if he keeps this up, he will be at the back of the Alpine around 3 laps time, but his tires will degrade faster than the hards, so he's gonna have to keep them alive for these final few laps and then potentially go for the move on the final few laps. It's going to be very exciting final few laps, because it's going to be a straight fight between Lucas and Mattia Manga for both of their first wins.
The TF10 boys going at it, and I'm sure their team managers are trying to keep the both drivers under control as well, between Alpine and the Aston Martin as well. So I wonder what the team is saying to them. Of course, communication will be key between these two, try and keep themselves calm and calculated. Lucas knows when under pressure later on the Grand Prix how he's going to manage the pressure. Will he suffer from the pressure behind Mattia Manga in second place there. I'm not quite sure, but Mattia Manga is gaining a rate of Nos. The gap is 2.7. Thiago is right behind Leon as well, as Leon takes a wide line as Autumn goes up the inside, in towards 1 and in towards turn 2. This has been a great drive for Autumn so far, because in the first stint, it didn't really look that competitive, as Tiho unfortunately picks up a penalty in the Grand Prix once again. He's down in P7, the former race leader of the Grand Prix, until he made contact with Leon going down in towards turn 1. But Autumn is up into P5, made up 9 places, and this is helping him in the championship too. Try and gain those extra few points, because if you finish P5 in a race, I think you pick up about 6 or 7 points. I think 6 points. So that's 6 points, and it'll get him closer towards the championship leader of Luke. And fully enough as well, Luke, despite not turning up for the last 2 races, I think he was expecting that people behind him in the Drivers' Championship would overtake him. But going towards the next race, they won't. Autumn needs to finish at least first to try and overtake him in the championship. So, yeah, that's not going to happen today here in Japan. So I think that Luke will still remain first place in the championship going towards the next race next week on Monday. But hopefully Luke is back, because he can't afford to miss any more races, especially with 3 races left to go after this one. As we see Thiago rise the bar. Look at Mattia Manga, the gap is 1.3. He's gaining the rate of Nos as well, and it will almost soon in DRS range. I don't think Lucas can do anything about it. His fellow team rival behind him catching him up on the trap, but Thiago's right behind Leon. So we've got a battle for first going on. We've got a battle for the final spot on the podium. Can Alpine make it a double podium? And that'll definitely help them in terms of the Constructors' Championship as well, because they definitely need the points after a difficult season, especially for Lucas's side and Lucas's former teammate as well, who hasn't turned up in the past few races. Alpine are currently P5 in the Constructors, 49 points, and they're 6 points behind Williams, and both Williams drivers have scored podiums this season as well. As you can see, the Aston Martin falling down in towards P10, really struggling so far. Unfortunately, he's broken his wing as well for good measure, like I said early on in the Grand Prix. So it's been bad luck for the Aston Martin driver so far, but his teammate, however, is 5 tenths behind Lucas as well. So one Aston Martin driver's fallen down. The other one is on an absolute charge, and he's right at the back of Lucas, and I dare say he'll overtake on the next lap as well, to lap 25 out of 27, and possibly break away from the DRS. His pace so far in the Grand Prix has been on form so far, and the hardcore part tyres too. When he started them, he was in form, he was competitive, kept up with the DRS train on the medium powered tyres, and hasn't dropped back since. His teammates had problems, but Mattia Manga has kept his nose clean, unlike last week in USA, when he could have got a podium. But unfortunately, he made contact going down in towards turn 13, and it really cost himself, really shot himself in the foot after a podium was there for him in his hands. But this time the race wins could be in his hands. He's on the back of him. He got the DRS, the battery, but too far away to make a move. And maybe on this lap, recover some battery, save the battery as well, and use it all on the next lap. As Bobpia and Alas are going side by side on towards the main straight. Bobpia under massive pressure from the Mercedes and the Sauber. The Sauber goes past, he puts himself up into P8 ahead of Bobpia. So Bobpia's dropped back 2 places, unfortunately, after sustaining foot damage in the early stages of the Grand Prix. I can't quite tell what happened to both Red Bull drivers, because I didn't see it. Well, I did see the damage fly off the car, the nose fly off the car, but I couldn't quite tell what the cause was. So unfortunately, catch that.
3 laps remaining in this race, and the battle is heating up for P1 and P3. Lucas still leads, but the gap is only 3 tenths of a second at the exit of the hairpin, and Leon, he's got Thiago for company, while Artem is closing the gap down. It's now 2.4, so big mistake though on the exit as he loses traction, but he is closing that gap down. But with only 2 laps to go after this one, I think he's just going to run out of laps eventually, unless, to be fair to him, he's keeping up with the McLaren despite having the 5-lap tire disadvantage, still staying with the McLaren, and if the McLaren's tire does fall off, then he might be able to get ahead. But we focus on the fight at the front as we go into the final chicane. Mattia Manga, he's closer than ever to potentially getting past the Alpine, but Lucas is getting a great exit. Bit of a moment though, but 4 tenths of a second. Will it be enough? DRS open and ERS deployed for the Aston Martin. Once again, getting close to the back. Is it going to be close enough? He's going to have to go long around the outside in towards turn 1. Will do it with the Alpine. Lucas holds steady on the inside. Mattia Manga tries to go long around the outside. Now he's going to have the inside line for the next turn. Mattia Manga takes the lead of this race on the penultimate lap. It's a beautiful move, and he's played that to absolute perfection. And for these final 1.5 laps, he is just going to have to keep his Aston Martin out on track and bring home the win. What a move from Mattia Manga, who is now into the lead of this race on this penultimate lap, but he made a bit of a mistake there going into the first deck now. The pressure is getting to him with just over 1 lap remaining. Mattia Manga leads out of Lucas, who is still following closely behind. If Mattia Manga makes a mistake, he will be there to take the advantage. But look at the acceleration as something has happened to Artem, who spun around at the exit of the second Deckner, and once again a mistake for the McLaren drops him all the way down to what will be P11 behind his own teammate, and all the points he was going to make up in the championship have become undone, because at the moment he will not score any points at all, even though there's 2 drivers ahead of him with a time penalty. But a crucial mistake for Artem, who will get past his teammate quite easily there. But wow, from P5 all the way down to P10. But look how close Lucas is to the back of Mattia Manga going on to the final lap. But if the Aston Martin gets a good exit, which I think he does, a bit of a moment there again for Lucas, and that might have been a chance. And now he's 0.5 of a second behind, and Mattia Manga, he will have enough going into turn 1, and he will lead the way going on to this final lap.
5.4 kilometres, 3.8 miles left around here, Suzuka. Not might be over just yet, because the battles can still continue. Thiago versus Leon behind us, and Thiago is up into P3, finally ahead of the Williams driver there. It could be both Alpines on the podium, but look how close Lucas was on the back of Mattia Manga going down towards that chicane. It could be the same thing again, but possibly try and move. Dome goes off the track. Napoli is up into P6 there, and Bompier's puts the pressure on the Mercedes driver. But it's not over yet between the top 2, because I think Lucas could respond. I thought for 1 second Mattia Manga would get past and pull away, but that's not the case so far, because the LP driver is still staying in contention as well. But look at the gap, it's going to 0.8 of a second there, so Lucas had a messy, scrappy corner in towards the hairpin, and that gave himself a bit of a distance between himself and P2 as well. As we make our way now towards Spoon, he's too far back to make any sort of pressure. It's been a mighty drive for both drivers, because the top 2 haven't scored a podium yet this season, but that is about to change as Nick gets a 3-second time penalty. The Grand Prix, look at Alas right behind Leon as well. The 2 Williams going in a battle together into towards Spoon curve. Alas is caught up out of nowhere. He was really alone in the Grand Prix, but all of a sudden he's behind his teammate. But here we go then between first and second place. It's been such a good day for both of them. They're about to make their way towards the finish line. Mattia Manga wins the Japanese Grand Prix for his first win and podium of the season, same with Lucas in P2 with his first podium too. And Thiago once again will make it a double Alpine podium. And behind us comes the Williams pair of Leon and Alas F1, who scores his best result of the season in P5. Congratulations. And Napoli, underrated race from him in P6. He's had many struggles in this race or season so far, but P6, underrated drive for him, and incredible too, and one of his best results of the season too. Where did he start? I think he started down outside the top 10, if I'm not mistaken, if I can find that graphic. He started 10th place. Dome also from P12 to P7, Bob P8. Artem's finished where he started in P9. Diogo Silva is at the top 10, but it's a disappointing day for championship contenders, for Wards and Artem. They had a big deficit to try and reduce, but unfortunately haven't done anything with it so far. As we've seen Nick out of the pit lane, as Boyolulu will come across the line in last place, and that will conclude the Japanese Grand Prix. But the story so far, despite missing 2 races and despite first place in the championship with no wins, is still first place. It's unbelievable. And Artem has barely scored any points either. This could be very crucial in the last 3 races of the season. But we're coming towards the final 3 rounds of the season, and the championship is spicier than ever and closer to who will take it all in the next 3 races. It's all to play for now. Barely any mistakes can be afforded to made now. And Milan, it's been an absolute pleasure to commentate with you here in Japan. It's been an absolute pleasure to commentate with you the whole season, mate.
Indeed, man, I couldn't agree more. And once again, an incredible race to watch. And wow, what a result from Mattia Manga. Last week's heartbreak turns into euphoria as he wins here in Suzuka after missing out on the podium at Kota. Just what a way to come back from a disappointing result in the end in the United States. So Mattia Manga, his first podium, his first win of the season, and I'm sure that will do him very, very well indeed. And well done to the Alpine team as well, securing a double podium in the end. That's going to boost them up in the Constructors' Championship as well. But a great race, despite having a track where it's difficult to overtake. We saw plenty of action, plenty of excitement, plenty of moments, and I hope we see many more of that in the final 3 rounds of the season. The championship is already coming to an end. It feels like the season has flown by so far, but we're nearing the end of the season, and is Luke going to be able to hold on to that championship lead? Will he be back next week in Las Vegas, or is there someone else who could potentially dethrone him from that championship lead?
Well, legend says that Mattia Manga finishes in the same place 2 times. So it could be 7th, 7th, 6th, 6th, 11th, 5th, 11th, 5th, 1st, 1st, Japan, and the next race as well. If it continues that streak, and what a streak it's been so far, the pattern in this one has been absolutely bizarre. It's been absolutely fun to watch as well for Mattia Manga, scoring the same results in the last 2, well, in each single race so far this season. But the next race is at the US Grand Prix, I think, in Las Vegas or Miami. We had the US Grand Prix in COTA so far, but I'm actually not quite sure which one it is in the next race. So stay tuned for next Monday. It's going to be super tight in the championship. And Luke, considering he hasn't raced the last 2 races, hopefully he's back, because he needs to come back, surely. he definitely can't win the championship, not by being here. But funny enough, Jeroen Visser is still second in the championship despite not being here since the 3rd race of the season back in Belgium. He dominates the first 3 races and still second in the championship, whilst Wards is P3 with barely any points, but that will switch around as we see Autumn might get promoted up to the order. Stefano as well, who hasn't been here as well in the last couple of races with the DNS at the US Grand Prix. So it's still Luke who leads the championship for Haas, but others are gaining down, and he needs to turn up as well as try and stop the other people taking the championship. But congratulations towards Lucas and Mattia Manga, those 2 finally scoring a podium for their first win of the podium of the season, and well deserved as well. But that's it from me, and I'll see you all back at the next race at the US Grand Prix. Back to US Grand Prix like we were last week, and hopefully that'll be a good one too. And it is the Baku Grand Prix this weekend as well, so let's hope it's a good race there here at the land of the rising, not the rising sun, the land of fire as we call it. I'll see you all later. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.